Oh my gosh. Hey, awesome ones. Looks like I've landed. I'm so grateful to be with you. Welcome to the Bliss Talk, living your yes energy. Thank you for the grace. I'm about 20 minutes late to this live. I was grateful to be with a client, and we had a lovely time in Align and Flow visioning. And here we are now in this ever present now and live. So, again, thank you for the grace. I am Krista Hammerbacher Hoppola, the Bliss Mystic. I am the creatrix of the Bliss Mystic Collective, and I am excited to share with you today a bit about living your yes energy. So, what I love to do, and this has been my practice for the past 20 years, working one on one and in circles and on retreats with humans of every stripe to focus on consciousness design and relationship design. And I will share with you a bit about consciousness design and relationship design. Relationship design is really a subset of consciousness design. We always start by bringing selves into self, as referred to in the Sarah Teasdale poem, The Crystal Gazer. I love how she shares that. So, the idea of consciousness design is that we are taking all aspects of self and all of our energies and bringing them into alignment so that we can flow. And I love Bliss Talks because it's my opportunity to be here in my office space and in my studio and just riff a bit on what consciousness design is, which is an approach that I have developed over the last 20 years in my practice, which really encompasses the four dimensions of the human experience, and that is the foundational matrix under the underpinnings of consciousness design. In that, it's not just mental health, it's not just somatics, it's not just a cognitive practice of planning or coaching, and it also brings in the energetics, the numinous, the mysterious, the fact that we are indeed essential beings, that we have an energy to us that some call spirit, some call source, some call consciousness. Um, my invitation to you is what it means to you is more important, and that you let it be what it means for you. And sometimes that can evolve. So, what I will share is those four dimensions of the human experience are our cognitive awareness, our mind, our brain, our linear, logical way we move energy and create organization and consciousness. It includes then also our emotional state, our heart wisdom. So that's the second dimension of the human experience, the wisdom of our emotion. And we bring that in this very cognitive focused culture. That is cognitive wisdom is a very important source of wisdom, and it's not the only source of wisdom. So we're also inviting in the emotional. We're also inviting in the somatic wisdom, the wisdom of our bodies, the wisdom of our vessel, and listening to the dialogue of sensations in our body. And we all have an awareness of our bodies that is impacted by culture, impacted by how we relate to our bodies in terms of if it's been an easeful relationship or if it's been a challenging relationship. There is still wisdom in the sensations of our body and our bodies, literally how they are showing up in the day to day. And again, lastly, that mysterious, the energetic, the I always seem to do this gesture when we're talking about that. So Bliss Talks are focused on particular facets of consciousness design or lenses through which we can use consciousness design. And today we're talking about living your yes energy. So we will talk a bit about our yes energy through each of the four dimensions of the human experience, and also recognize that three of those sources of wisdom, our emotional energy, our physical energy, let me say it this way, our emotional wisdom, our physical wisdom or somatic wisdom, and the mysterious wisdom that does include connection to your intuition or living your intuition, that those three sources of wisdom tend to be overlooked or deprioritized in our culture that wants us to prove it and to have lots of research based support for reality. And I don't discount that at all. That is important, and it's not the only source of wisdom. And if we combine the wisdom from all four of the dimensions of human experience, we will then have a more comprehensive um, awareness to then align those selves into self, to take action in a way in this uh, reality, in our world, in this consciousness experiment that feels more whole and connected to all that we are and not just cognitively making choices that feel logical, but somehow we might override our emotional wisdom, our wisdom of our body, or that intuitive, energetic wisdom that we're not sure why or where we're feeling that, but we can know that it may be true for us. And the invitation there is to build relationships with all of those sources of wisdom in such a way that we have powerful discernment. So, living our yes energy. So, living our yes energy is so fundamental to consciousness design in that yes energy. What is your pleasure? What is your bliss? What is feels aligned and connected to the way you want to create or make choices in the world is not accidental. It's not trivial. It comes from somewhere through us, and our yes energy for each of us is different. And how cool is that? And so we can reflect on for self where that yes energy may come from. And we may be able to notice that it comes from lived experience, it comes from where we want to move our energy into the choices we want to make. But again, I invite you to reflect on, we can sometimes point to where that yes energy comes from. And sometimes it's important to just notice that we can trust that life affirming yes energy and move with it in alignment in such a way that we may not fully understand cognitively, but it's still aligned for us because emotionally it feels aligned, or our body is responsive in a way that we can open and relax into that choice, or we may be intuitively or energetically pulled in a direction to a choice, not really know why cognitively, and still know that that choice is the right choice for us, or we're drawn in that direction. So remembering that that yes energy is different for all of us, and it comes from somewhere. Sometimes we can pinpoint it, sometimes we can't know that why. And yet when we are discerning, we can know that the yeses that we have followed through our whole lives have created the reality that's in front of us right now. That whatever we've said yes to, you're watching this now because you opted in. We get up in the morning and we do whatever is next because we are making a choice that moves us in the direction of our yes. And so when we honor the creative energy of our yes, we can also notice that there might be a lot of times where we resist that, and especially that yes that comes through those um, deprioritized sources of wisdom, emotional wisdom, somatic bodily wisdom, and energetic or intuitive wisdom. And a lot of our yes energy flows through that. And so the invitation is to recognize that we oftentimes, when we're getting yes energy, creative energy through those other sources of wisdom, we try to um, decide what to do with that resistance that we have, and we'll sometimes create a cognitive override and say, no, even though my heart wants me to move in this direction, this is the more logical, linear, um, what's the word I'm looking for here? Ordained by culture path. And yet, at the same time, we notice that when we override an emotional or a somatic or an energetic yes, that it tends to take us in a direction that doesn't feel fully aligned. And that therein lies that discernment. And so, my invitation to you is to notice where you have resistance to yes energy because of not allowing yourself pleasure, not allowing yourself ease, not allowing yourself to follow a yes that feels, I have a lot of clients that'll share, it feels too easeful, feels too easy to move in that direction. Can I give myself permission to let it be easy? And so my invitation to you is that as part of the discernment is to consider that we live in a culture that isn't entirely supportive of living our yes energy. It's supportive of living our yes energy if we have a cognitive, linear, logical reason and we can support it. Then we're ordained by culture to follow our yes energy, that we get that cosign from culture. But if you've ever had an experience in your life where you've just had an inkling, you've had an intuition, you've had a draw to a place, to a job, to a person, to a in relationship to some other kind of opportunity, and it was all because your heart was calling, or it was all because your body wanted you to do the thing, whatever it might be, um, taking a complete illogical um, pivot or shift in your life, where a lot of people, or you're just following your intuition, a lot of people will be like, I can't believe you're just saying yes to that. Where's the proof? Where's the support? Where's your plan? Where's the logic here? And sometimes our yes energy just isn't logical. And we're very used to talking ourselves or cognitively overriding out of that. So the invitation is first to notice, where are you resisting your yes energy? And that discernment actually mirrors those four dimensions of the human experience. We're often aware of discernment cognitively. We are assessing the support, the proof, the does this make sense? And again, I'm not discounting that cognitive wisdom, but that's not the only source of wisdom. And so we're used to discerning that. How used to discerning your bodily wisdom, your somatic awareness, your when you feel really open and expansive, when you feel contracted, open and expansive, can translate to yes energy. Constricted, resistant, aversive bodily experience can translate to no energy. That's not aligned. That's not for me. Um, from an emotional perspective, we usually feel like we are kind of carried away with our emotion, that we are feeling a yes, and we can't resist it, but we must resist it because there's no logical um, scaffolding. There's no logical support to say yes to an emotional yes. But what I offer is oftentimes those experiences in our life, particularly relationships or getting swept away by, it's just time for me to move to the city, or it's just time for me to start this project, this creative project, or it's time for me to pivot completely away from this job for reasons that don't make sense, but it still is a yes. And last but not least, that logical, or excuse me, that energetic or more intuitive yes of, I have no idea why I'm called to this, but I feel very called to this. Again, those yeses, that intuitive or energetic yes, that somatic or bodily yes, and that emotional, uh, heart centered yes. We're used to talking ourselves out of those because that is not the wisdom that our culture ordains as useful or true. And the invitation here is to recognize your yes energy is sacred. That indeed, that yes energy comes through us all differently because that is the energy of creation coming through us. And so that's the reason why some of us write books and some of us make art and some of us are engineers, and some of us are translators, and some of us are um, gardeners, and some of us are choose to be parents, and some of us choose not to, and some of us our path takes us in a direction. And our yes energy is very invested in one direction, but then we get realigned to another direction of flow of our yes energy. Um, there's a lot of mystery there, and yet what my invitation to you is to come into discernment of your yes energy in a way that really honors the yes energy, but always we need to remind ourselves that we do have that agency. We are at choice simply because our emotional energy, our emotional wisdom, our energetic wisdom, or our somatic wisdom is pulling us in a direction, even our cognitive wisdom, we are still at choice to take action about that and to take some time to discern and take some time to recognize that you can invest energy into those yes choices, or you can invest energy in pausing or being in a space of um, more elongated or um, patient discernment. That we're not talking necessarily instant that as soon as our yes energy registers that we must go in that direction. We are talking about our sovereignty when we are at choice. And I often will mention then that idea in consciousness design of the sovereignty paradox. Simply because our yes energy may be completely aligned in all four dimensions of the human experience, we are still at choice in our sovereignty to say no. And that can feel a little like, well, what is the point, Krista, in sharing this all about discerning yes energy if I'm just going to say no to it? Is a reminder that, sovereignty is sovereignty is sovereignty. And the paradox of that is we get to choose to act on what is aligned, and we also get to choose to not act on what is aligned. And that also will open doors. That also will shape our consciousness. That also will design our consciousness in a way that we then can be the experiment and decide, I do want to go deeper into living my yes energy, but I have a lot of resistance to metabolize before I can fully opt in to saying yes to my yeses. And so my invitation right now is to take a moment, reflect on an area of your life where you're feeling called to a yes. And just notice, we're just going to do a quick scan. What does your mind say about that? How does your mind say yes to it? And how is your heart saying yes to it? That's or emotional wisdom. How's your body saying yes to it? Is it open-hearted? Is it expanded? Is it feeling compelled to move in that direction? And lastly, how is your energy? How is your intuition moving you in that yes direction? Where does that register? How do you discern that? And just notice. That is the starting point of discernment. And again, most of us are used to the discernment of our mind, of our brains, of the logical and linear. And it may take more practice to feel into your yes energy with your emotion. It may take more practice to notice what your body is saying about your yes energy. Just noticing sensations, places in your body that get tight or open. Um, are your hands open or are they clenched? Lots of different cues there, and that's what we do in Align and Flow sessions is move that energy to really get self intimate with that discernment. And lastly, how does that yes energy feel in that compelling move toward intuitive or energetic? How does that register for you? That discernment of those three sources of wisdom, our emotional wisdom, our somatic wisdom, and our the energetic or intuitive wisdom, that numinous, mysterious wisdom that we don't know the why behind. Um, all of that as we discern how that yes information comes through, how that wisdom shows up in our body, in our heart, in our energy, and then we marry all of those together, there may be some contradictory information as well. And so the invitation there is if it is an all yes, that is particularly aligned. And again, bringing ourselves back to sovereignty. We can choose to act on that in whatever way we wish or not. And so that's breaking down how that discernment process happens. Again, that's a high level conversation about it. The nuance in when we are working in consciousness design is we're always looking to go deeper into that self awareness, self intimacy, and how to discern even deeper if something is an invitation of our yes energy. We get to decide how we invest our action at choice into that and then feel into and discern that alignment as we're moving that yes energy forward. Back to then this idea of we might also notice that we have resistance to following and living that yes energy. And I'm here to share with you that that is an important noticing and it is not bad or wrong. Some of it is the cultural constructs of um, the pleasure rationing culture that we have to work hard, that we have to put our shoulder to it. That is a cultural construct that is something to notice that can create resistance to when we are living our yes energy. It feels too easeful. It feels too easy, that we can flow with things, and when we're flowing with things, we just begin to notice, oh, there's more yes energy, there's more yes energy. So discernment begets more discernment as we say yes to more of our yes energy flow. And the resistance is there to show us where that discernment might be. Um, we might have unlearned early on through cultural constructs and cultural messaging or family messaging that life isn't going to be too easy, that our yes energy doesn't have value, that we have to do what we're told, that our pleasure, we only get certain amounts of pleasure after we work for it. And the invitation there is to, for yourself, examine where that resistance is coming from and opt into your own proactive ethic that we develop in consciousness design around we get to decide the cultural constructs that we invite into our consciousness, and we also get to extract those cultural constructs that don't align with how we relate to our pleasure energy, to our bliss. And what I will offer is how I conceive in consciousness design of pleasure is ease, it's flow, it's creative, it is spiritual sustenance, it is each of us and our essence acting here in the human world to bring to form what we are here to bring into form, creation flowing through us. And the more we can metabolize that resistance, the more we feel the flow. I call it the feedback loop. The more we feel that feedback loop, the more nuanced our discernment, the more yes energy we feel and notice. And the more we feel and notice that and then act upon it, we start to flow with more yes energy. And so it can become amplified. All of a sudden, we opt in to create the business we always wanted to create and it starts to flourish. Or we create the business we should create and somehow we feel like we're running into brick walls over and over again. There's no alignment, there's no flow. Because we're doing something that we should rather than something that we want to or that is aligned with our pleasure. And that pleasure is creative energy. It's also the human analog to bliss energy, to expansive spiritual flow. And those two are indeed connected. And if you've followed your yes energy and really been in deep discernment over time and really designing your consciousness by ordaining your yes as sacred and real and true and worthy, that really metabolizing and getting rid of the messages of pleasure rationing culture, and we're talking about life affirming pleasures here, pleasures that move us in the direction of feeling more expansive, enlightened, lighter, just lightening your load from day to day. We get closer to that feeling of bliss and we get a sense of what we're doing is inspired and it tends to attract and magnetize and inspire others. And so, my invitation to you is to take all of this with you. And again, all of this is just a simple, what I call a bit of mind food. Some mind food for you to um, feel into the path of consciousness design, to feel into honoring those three sources of wisdom, our heart wisdom, our bodily and somatic wisdom, and that energetic intuitive wisdom, and start to put it on par with our cognitive wisdom. And many of us are very aware of the the gap in that discernment and that willingness to listen and feel into that wisdom. And if this is the first time that you're hearing, feeling into any of this, be gentle with yourself and be the experiment. This is a space of no energetic black holes, no guilt, no shame, no self judgment. How we've done it so far has been aligned to get us precisely where we are now, another facet of consciousness design. And so making meaning of where you are now is the the next invitation into more yes energy. And so resistance is information. Resistance informs the feedback loop. Resistance also can start to be metabolized and broken down as we say yes and flow more with our yes energy. And that then reinforces itself. And then that awareness of discernment, where that wisdom lands, how it feels for us, we get more and more intimate with that awareness of self. and then we double down on it. And then we say yes to more. And then we say yes to a more nuanced yes, maybe a more vulnerable or riskier yes to our egos. And then when we notice that when we're in the feedback loop, we're getting information, we're getting that wisdom, we're open to those other three dimensions of the human experience and the wisdom that flows through them. And my invitation to you there is to simply notice what happens when you invite in more emotional wisdom, what happens when you invite in more somatic wisdom, what happens when you invite in more energetic or intuitive wisdom, and stir it all up in the pot um, of the four dimensions of the human experience, along with your well-developed cognitive wisdom, and see where that takes you. So, with that being said, thank you for joining me for this Bliss Talk. I love talking about consciousness design any chance I get. And again, I get to do that one on one with clients. I also get to do that in circles and on retreats. And I get to do that here in the Miracle of the Ever Present Now on socials. And my invitation to you is let this bit of mind food take you deeper into self, take you deeper into the magnetizing and attractive energy toward your bliss, toward your pleasure. You get to self ordain your pleasure path. And the more you self ordain your pleasure path, the more you're going to notice that feedback loop, and it amplifies as you live your yes energy. And I would love to hear from you. You can reach me anywhere, all the places here on the professional page. You can email me at krista@theblissmystic.com. I'm also on Instagram at krista.writes and also at the Bliss Mystic. Lots and lots of places to connect. You can also go to theblissmystic.com if you are interested in more consciousness design juiciness. And the Bliss Talks will keep coming. You can pop over to YouTube and see more Bliss Talks there from the last few years. And this has been a joy. Thank you, truly blissful. Thank you for your attention and intention. Thank you for investing this energy in yourself to be the experiment, to find your edge of what you're challenged by, what makes you think, feel, sense into your body, and just move that energy toward expanding your consciousness, that edge. So thank you for finding your edge, and the invitation is there for you to live your bliss. So, and rock on.